You didn't click anything. You didn't search. You didn't like a post or follow an account. You just hesitated. Half a second longer than usual. And in that half second, the system learned something you never told it. Because the most valuable data point was never your choice. It was your uncertainty. That sounds abstract, until your feed shows you something so specific it feels intrusive. Something you didn't ask for, but didn't scroll past either. And suddenly you're left wondering how it knew. This isn't about microphones listening in. That explanation is comforting, because it feels simple. The truth is quieter. It doesn't need to hear you. It watches how long you linger, where you slow down. What makes your thumb hesitate before it keeps moving? Because hesitation reveals preference before preference becomes conscious. At first, the internet responded to us. You typed, it answered. You searched, it returned results. It didn't know who you were. It didn't need to. But that model broke the moment content became endless. When the problem stopped being access and became attention. Attention is finite. Human focus is fragile. And when something is scarce, it becomes valuable. So the systems adapted. They began tracking behavior, clicks, watch time, scroll speed. But tracking only explains the past. Prediction controls the future. And once a system can predict you, it can influence you without ever touching you. So here's the question worth asking. When your feed feels like it understands you, is it learning who you are? Or is it quietly shaping the version of you that shows up tomorrow? At first, most people assume it's harmless. Just code, just math, just an algorithm trying to keep you entertained. That's the comforting version of the story. And for a while, it almost makes sense. After all, if a system watches what you enjoy and gives you more of it, what's the problem? But here's where it gets interesting. These systems don't just watch what you click. They watch how long you hesitate, what you scroll past slowly, what you replay, what you almost click, but don't. They track when you stop, when you linger, when you leave. And over time, that behavior forms a pattern. Not of what you say you like, but of who you actually are. This is where prediction enters the picture. Because once a system can reliably predict your next action, it doesn't need to persuade you anymore. It can simply arrange the environment. Think about that. You're not being told what to believe, you're being surrounded by what nudges you there. One video doesn't change you, neither does 10, but thousands, carefully ordered, timed perfectly, delivered when you're tired or bored or alone. That's different. And the system doesn't care about truth or context or consequences. It only cares about one thing. Does this keep you here? If the answer is yes, the system learns. If the answer is no, it adjusts. Over time, your feed stops being a mirror and starts becoming a funnel. Not toward a single belief, but toward a direction, a mood, a worldview. And here's the unsettling part. No one has to decide where that funnel leads. Not an engineer, not a CEO, not even the system itself. It emerges from feedback, from reinforcement, from billions of tiny interactions that feel meaningless on their own. This is why two people can open the same app at the same time and walk away with completely different versions of reality. Different fears, different priorities, different assumptions about the world. And neither of them feels manipulated, because nothing was forced. It just felt natural. That's the power of prediction. And once you notice it, it becomes hard to ignore. Because the real question isn't, is the algorithm biased? The real question is, what happens when bias becomes personal? And what happens when the system learns which version of reality keeps you watching? That's where things stop being passive and start becoming directional. Here's where it stops being abstract. Because this doesn't happen the same way to everyone. Two people can wake up, open the same app, on the same day, and see completely different worlds. One feed feels calm, light, harmless. The other feels tense, angry, restless, and neither of them notices anything unusual. Because to each person, their feed feels normal. That's the trick. The system isn't trying to show you everything. It's trying to show you what works on you, what keeps your attention, what holds it, what pulls you back. Over time, that personalization gets sharper. The content narrows, the tone stabilizes, the themes repeat. Not obviously, not all at once, but gradually. So gradually, you stop seeing it as selection and start seeing it as reality. This is why arguments online feel impossible. You're not disagreeing on opinions, you're disagreeing on inputs, on what you've been exposed to, what you've been reinforced with, what's been made familiar. And familiarity feels like truth. The system doesn't need to lie to you, it just needs to repeat a tone, repeat a frame, repeat a perspective, until it feels obvious. And the most effective feeds aren't the loudest ones. They're the ones that feel reasonable, measured, balanced, normal. Because when something feels normal, you stop questioning it. At that point, the system isn't reacting to you anymore. It's shaping the environment you move through, quietly, predictably, and personally, which raises an uncomfortable thought. If your feed is different from everyone else's, and it's optimized to keep you engaged, then who are you slowly becoming, without ever choosing to? There's a comforting lie we tell ourselves, that influence only works if we agree with it. But most influence doesn't ask for permission, it just adjusts the environment. So slowly, you stop noticing the change. This doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're human. Every mind, no matter how intelligent, relies on patterns. And patterns are shaped by repetition. The question isn't whether you're influenced. The question is whether you ever notice how. Because the moment you notice, the system loses a little power. Not all of it, just enough. Enough to create distance. Enough to pause. Enough to ask, why did I just see that? Why that tone? Why now? Awareness doesn't break the algorithm, but it changes your relationship with it. You stop assuming your feed is neutral. You stop assuming it reflects the world. You start seeing it as a mirror, one that's been angled, adjusted, optimized. And once you see the angle, you can't unsee it. That's not a call to delete apps or unplug from modern life. That's unrealistic, and honestly, not the point. The point is remembering that your attention is finite, and anything competing for it is doing so for a reason. Some reasons are harmless, some are profitable, some are ideological, most are invisible. It's meant to slow you down, to remind you that just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's true. Just because something feels common doesn't mean it's universal. And just because something keeps appearing doesn't mean it was inevitable. In the end, the most powerful act isn't resistance, it's noticing. Noticing what pulls you, what irritates you, what comforts you, what keeps you scrolling. Because once you notice the pattern, you get something rare, a choice. And in a world optimized to decide for you, that might be the most valuable thing left. See ya.